Hey everyone! In today's video, we're taking a look at Patron, a city builder that just came out of early access that shows a ton of promise. Having played my fair share of city builders since the earliest SimCity days, up to and including more modern releases like City Skylines, and even our more recent look at Foundation, it's safe to say at this point I can build a heck of a city. It may have been because of my recent experience with Foundation that I found a lot of parallels along the way, but also the fact that this game setting is in that familiar medieval, peasant-filled setting that I guess we've become accustomed to. But at least we know there's no need to worry about electricity or plumbing. Basic shelters, woodcutters, and gathering huts will sustain you for a long time, long enough to start attracting attention. Your town grows through a combination of immigration and natural family growth. Your little houses will quickly fill up with colonists, kids, and teenagers, who, just like in real life, will eat up all your food and not really contribute a ton to society until they grow up. As time goes on, your group of peasants will grow, and you'll be able to use the pittance of tax money they provide to start making upgrades. This game has an incredibly deep and expansive tech tree, which will allow you to unlock a number of options and improvements for your city, allowing it to reach much greater potential. The people, especially your initial peasants, they're naturally really psyched when they first show up, but you'll need to satisfy a number of needs over time if you want to keep them around. This game has a basic needs system I'm not going to fully detail. It's straightforward, but it has a happiness system partly influenced by luxury goods that I'll talk about. It allows you to attract different classes of immigrants. Peasants are great and all, super easy to please. They just need some clothes and a few clay pots. Laborers, merchants, and fancy gentry folk, however, they're all very demanding of unique items that you'll need to keep in stock to keep them happy. Attracting these immigrants is expensive because of the production chains involved, but they each pay higher tiers of taxes, allowing you to become richer through diversification. Initially, I was concerned about the logistics nightmare I'd started creating with my first city. I assumed that my logs would end up in storage at the place where they were dropped off, and I'd have to build around that area to keep peasants from running around everywhere. I was pleasantly surprised to find out that the devs made a great move here by avoiding that altogether. The logistics buildings in this game are essentially storage silos with different capacities, but anything deposited can be retrieved at any of the other locations instantly. This frees up a player in terms of building in a less restricted way, and it makes creating a less centralized city an easier thing to do. Not only does this logistics system free up resources by basically teleporting things around as needed, but this choice also helps your system resources by simplifying logistics AI and making stored objects a simple number instead of game objects that take up RAM. My first experience with the trade system was a tad frustrating, because at first I didn't really understand how to organize a recurring permanent trade deal. Once I learned how to do that, though, it was much easier to keep everything in check. I could sell off my excess resources for gold, continue to overproduce things like food to ensure my people, at the very minimum, wouldn't starve. Building up little communities of houses is encouraged by the game in a few ways. A lot of the buildings like markets, churches, and quite a few others have area of effect bonuses to things like population happiness. The UI in the game is actually pretty great overall, but there's a few things that aren't incredibly polished. My mistake at not noticing the tab in the dock window is one example, but another one that comes to mind is the lack of demolish options for new construction. When you place a brand new building plan, you can opt to pause or prioritize that construction, and it really feels like there should be an option to cancel it here as well. Misclicks will happen. You can deconstruct ghost buildings, but you have to do it through the demolition menu. Now, while Foundation evolved into a different experience in the mid-game because of a different balance of priorities, Patron doesn't seem to suffer from that at all. For better or worse, depending on what you're looking for in a city builder, Patron manages to stay very core to around that idea of constant expansion and balance. Over time, the experience actually reminded me a lot more of Banished, but with some additional layers, more complex needs. The art here is incredible. The 3D models for each building were skillfully done, and there's a lot of minor variations with structures like houses or tents, which means when you place them down in a row or a big ugly square, the diversity of the models themselves makes your city feel a little bit more organic than cookie-cutter buildings. The individual colonists here are given just enough realism as well, and while a player isn't able to get extremely close to them due to the camera, the art detail really does encourage you to want an even closer look at almost everything. The needs of single, individual citizens in this game aren't ultimately important. If you manage the big items, like food, firewood, and happiness, your town will undoubtedly grow. Make sure people have their basic needs met. The job system here is simple enough to manage as well, and quite similar in some ways to the system used in Songs of Six, which is actually the direction I'd mentioned as a bit of an annoyance when I talked about Foundation. While it isn't quite the same level of job automation, it's a huge step in the right direction for sure. The challenge with this game, at least for now, is the challenge itself. There aren't a lot of things to get in the way of your dreams to grow bigger and bigger. In my experience, the only disaster I came across was fire, but programmatically, I imagine that means there's a good possibility of more events to come. There are things that pop up on you occasionally, choices that you make, which for the most part are interactions with some kingdom or a crashed ship, some kind of story. Anyway, you choose how to proceed. There's good and bad consequences. Lots of these will affect levels of happiness or loyalty, and you might gain or lose items or people, but you typically have some choice in the matter at least. These choices present a minor interruption in an otherwise pretty seamless workflow of building, planning, and watching your various stock of items ebb and flow. The ability to upgrade single structures is incredibly powerful, and will likely be rebalanced. As long as you're careful where you place things, many of the buildings can produce wild numbers of items with just a single employee in many cases. It seemed like a no-brainer most of the time to dump materials into a structure and max everything out. Once you're in a position that you can do that immediately with the majority of buildings you pop down, you can reach a point where you're essentially free to build as quickly as you can, as long as you can keep up that balance. I can't overstate how much I loved the grid overlay systems and the easy option to toggle trees. This made it really easy to plan out roads in little communities. I'd love to actually see future additions onto this overlay system, making it easier to manage other things in the future. Visual indicators for some of the happiness items like safety, religion, or really anything else would be great for city planning. I guess one of the challenges of this realism is that sometimes it can be easy for some of the buildings to blend into each other. By the time you've placed your 100th building, you'll likely have forgotten just how many wells you placed along the way, for example. And since the new research will allow you to upgrade existing building structures, you can imagine it might be difficult to find everything quickly. The Buildings tab here does a good job of tracking things in a list format, and upgrade orders being able to be issued from here is a beautiful thing. All in all, this is a hard game for me to find big, sweeping areas of opportunity. There isn't a ton that stood out to me in a negative way. The care that went into this game as it stands right now is both apparent and impressive. I'm sure this one's actually going to blow a lot of people away. It's a unique experience in terms of scope. For the folks who loved Banished, this is an easy recommendation, and for those who love City Skylines, they'll also likely appreciate a lot of the differences here. Rather than big, jarring rewards at certain population sizes, for example, you instead have a slow build, and an overall very relaxing atmosphere as long as you're mindful of the needs of your people. For the price, Patron is a good move if you want a relaxing city builder. And it actually looks possible there's even more to come. With the release on Steam and mod support through the Steam Workshop, even more content is possible until DLCs, which also appear to be planned, are released. As always, I appreciate your time with me here today. Thanks for watching.